I'm Emily Harper, the backbone of Harper Construction, and tonight, Savannah's shadows might swallow me whole. In our River Street office, the air chokes with dust and dread as I stare at a flickering security feed, a hooded figure tampering with our hotel site's foundation where concrete hasn't set. My pulse hammers, the dim glow of my desk lamp casting jagged shapes across the creaky oak floors. If that sabotage holds, our $10 million project could collapse, taking my decade of sacrifice with it. My phone buzzes, Clara, my sister, texting about her new role. Why now? I grab my keys, fear and fury colliding. What's she hiding, and who's out there in the dark? Hope you enjoyed this story. Leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear where you're watching from. Now let's continue with the story. I forced myself to breathe, setting the phone down as thunder rumbled like a warning. The office, with its creaky oak floors and faint smell of sawdust, had been my second home since I was a kid. At 32, I'd given a decade of my life to Harper Construction, our family business, pouring my soul into restoring Savannah's antebellum homes and building sleek commercial spaces. This city, with its live oaks draped in Spanish moss and squares humming with history, was in my blood. So was the company. My father, James Harper, always said, "This'll be yours someday, Em," his voice warm as he ruffled my hair under his massive desk. I was 8 then, sketching blueprints on scrap paper, dreaming of the day I'd lead. That dream shaped everything. I studied business management at the University of Georgia, graduated top of my class, and turned down offers from Atlanta firms to join Dad the Monday after commencement. For 10 years, I lived and breathed Harper Construction. I was first in, last out, often crashing on the office couch during crunch times. I memorized every client's quirks. Robert Calhoun of Magnolia Properties liked his coffee black, no sugar, and doubled our revenue with new project management software. My weeks stretched to 80 hours, sometimes more. Relationships fizzled. I missed friends' weddings, weekend trips, even my college roommate's baby shower. But I didn't mind. I was building my future, brick by brick. Savannah's charm kept me sane. On rare free evenings, I'd walk the riverfront, the salty breeze off the Savannah River easing my stress. Lately, I'd found refuge at the Low Country Animal Shelter, a squat building near Ardsley Park where I volunteered. There, a scruffy mutt named Jasper had stolen my heart. His amber eyes, wary yet hopeful, seemed to see right through me. I'd sit with him in his kennel, his warm weight against my leg, grounding me when work felt overwhelming. "You get me, don't you, boy?" I'd whisper, scratching his ears. I hadn't adopted him yet. My schedule was too brutal. But I promised myself I would someday. Tonight, though, the storm threatened everything. I snapped back to the present, the scaffold's creak cutting through the rain's drumbeat. I dialed our site manager, Ethan, my voice steady despite my racing pulse. "Get a crew to secure that scaffold now." He promised they'd handle it, but unease lingered. I sank into my chair, the blueprint crinkling in my grip. Clara's text gnawed at me. She'd been back in Savannah for 2 years, her art history degree from Paris and tales of midnight cafe chats charming everyone. Dad had created a creative consultant role for her, vague but flashy. She worked maybe 25 hours a week, taking long lunches at the Grey, Savannah's chicest restaurant. I didn't resent her, at least I hadn't. We were opposites. Me, practical and driven. Dad's mini-me. Clara, a free spirit like our mother Margaret, with her watercolors and garden club. But her new role? That felt like a shift I hadn't seen coming. I rubbed my temples, exhaustion creeping in. Sundays were for family dinners at my parents' home in the Victorian district, a ritual revived since Clara's return. Last week's dinner replayed in my mind. The dining room glowed with candlelight, the air thick with the scent of Margaret's oyster roast. Clara had held court, laughing about a client's quirky demands, her colourful scarf fluttering as she gestured. Dad nodded, his eyes proud. Margaret refilled my sweet tea, her smile tight when I mentioned a new project timeline. "You work too hard, Emily," she'd said, changing the subject. I'd brushed it off, too tired to probe. Now Clara's text made those moments feel like clues. Jasper's face flashed in my mind, his steady gaze a reminder to stay grounded. I opened my laptop, pulling up the hotel project specs to distract myself. The storm's fury softened, rain now a steady patter. My phone buzzed, Ethan confirming the scaffold was secure. Relief washed over me, but Clara's words lingered like humidity after a downpour. What was her new role? Why hadn't Dad mentioned it? I trusted my family implicitly. Dad's promises, Margaret's warmth, Clara's charm. They wouldn't blindside me, would they? I stood, stretching, the office quiet except for the rain's murmur. A photo on my desk caught my eye. Me, Clara, and our parents at the company's 30th anniversary, standing under Forsyth Park's fountain. We'd looked so united, Dad's arms around us, Margaret beaming. I traced the frame, a pang in my chest. That promise, "This'll be yours," had been my North Star. I'd sacrificed everything for it. If something was shifting, I needed to know. The storm had passed, but another was brewing. Tomorrow I'd dig into Clara's role, maybe check the office files for clarity. For now, I locked up, stepping onto River Street. The air was cool, the cobblestones slick under my boots. Savannah's lights reflected on the river, a city both timeless and ever-changing. Like me, it held secrets beneath its charm. I headed home, Jasper's image tugging at my heart. Whatever came next, I'd face it, scaffold or sister, with the strength I'd built over a decade. The morning after the storm, Savannah woke to a heavy stillness, the air thick with humidity and the faint scent of wet magnolias. I sat at my desk in Harper Construction's Forsyth Park office, the blueprint from last night's chaos still crumpled in a corner. My coffee had gone cold, untouched, as Clara's text from yesterday looped in my mind. Excited for my new role at the company. What did that even mean? I'd tossed and turned all night, her words gnawing at me like a splinter I couldn't pull out. The office was quiet, save for the hum of the air conditioner and the occasional creak of the old oak floors. I loved this space, its tall windows overlooking the park's fountain, the shelves lined with project binders I'd organized over a decade. But today it felt like a stranger's house. I opened my laptop, trying to focus on the hotel restoration project. The scaffold was secure, Ethan had texted at dawn, but we'd need to inspect it today. I should have been out there, clipboard in hand, barking orders to the crew. Instead, I stared at Clara's message, my thumb hovering over the reply button. "Congrats," I typed, then deleted it. Too fake. I wasn't ready to play nice. Not until I understood what her new role entailed. Dad hadn't mentioned anything, and that wasn't like him. He'd always been open about the company's future. My future. Or so I thought. I stood, pacing to the window. Forsyth Park was alive with joggers and dog walkers, the Spanish moss swaying gently in the breeze. I thought of Jasper, the scruffy mutt at the Low Country Animal Shelter. I'd promised to visit him today, maybe even start the adoption paperwork. His amber eyes had a way of calming the storm in my chest, and I needed that now. But first, I had to settle this unease about Clara. I crossed to the filing cabinet labelled Legal Documents, Confidential, tucked in the corner by Eleanor's desk. She wasn't in yet. Nobody was, at 7 a.m., and I figured I'd find the hotel contract I'd been hunting last night. Maybe Clara's new role was tied to some client-facing project, something Dad hadn't looped me in on yet. The cabinet's lock was sticky, as always, but it gave way with a tug. I rifled through folders, leases, permits, old tax records, until my fingers brushed a thick manila envelope labelled Harper Construction Ownership Transfer. My stomach twisted, a cold prickle running down my spine. It was probably old paperwork, I told myself, from when Grandpa handed the business to Dad 30 years ago. I pulled it out, the weight of it heavy in my hands. The date on the first page stopped me cold. March 15th, 2025. 6 months ago. My eyes scanned the dense legal text, words like hereby transfers and 75% ownership stake jumping out like daggers. Clara Elizabeth Harper was typed neatly, followed by James and Margaret Harper, 25% retained. My name, nowhere. I sank into Eleanor's chair, the room spinning. The air felt too thin, the oak floors too loud under my shifting weight. I flipped through the pages, searching for some mistake, some clause that would explain this away. Nothing. My hands trembled as I clutched the folder, the betrayal sinking in like rain into Savannah's red clay. 10 years, 80-hour weeks, missed birthdays, broken relationships, all for a company I thought was mine. Dad's voice echoed in my head. "This'll be yours, Em." Lies. I wanted to scream, to hurl the folder across the room, but my body wouldn't move. I was hollow, a shell carved out by a promise that never existed. The office door creaked open and Eleanor stepped in, her sensible loafers pausing as she saw me. Her grey hair was pulled back, her face softening with concern. "Emily, you're here early." "Oh." Her eyes landed on the folder, and her expression shifted to something like guilt. She knew. "Did you know about this?" I asked, my voice a hoarse whisper. Eleanor's gaze dropped to her shoes, her silence louder than any confession. "How long?" I pressed, standing now, the folder gripped tight. "Your father asked us not to say," she said finally, her voice small. "He wanted to tell you himself when the time was right." "When the time was right?" I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound that echoed in the empty office. "It's been 6 months, Eleanor. 6 months of me working myself to death while everyone knew Clara owned my company." Her face crumpled, but I didn't care. The senior staff knew. Ethan, the accountants, probably even the interns. I'd been a fool, the last to know, pitied behind my back. The humiliation burned hotter than the betrayal. I shoved the folder into my bag, grabbed my keys, and brushed past her. "I need air," I muttered, not looking back. I drove to the low country animal shelter, the streets of Savannah blurring through tears I refused to let fall. The shelter was a low brick building, its yard buzzing with volunteers and barking dogs. Jasper was waiting in his kennel, his tail thumping as I knelt beside him. I buried my face in his scruffy fur, his warmth steadying me. "You'd never lie to me, would you, boy?" I whispered, my voice cracking. His amber eyes held mine, steady and trusting, a lifeline in the storm. I stayed there, letting his quiet loyalty anchor me, until the shelter manager, Miss Rosa, tapped my shoulder. "You okay, Emily?" she asked, her southern drawl gentle. I shook my head, unable to speak. She didn't push, just handed me Jasper's leash. "Take him for a walk. Clears the head." We wandered through Ardsley Park, Jasper trotting beside me, sniffing azaleas as the sun climbed higher. The betrayal churned in my gut, but Jasper's playful tug on the leash kept me from spiraling. Clara, with her art degree and Parisian stories, owned 75% of Harper Construction. She'd waltzed back 2 years ago, after a decade of chasing dreams abroad, and Dad handed her my future. Why? I needed answers, but the thought of facing my family made my chest tighten. Sunday dinner was tomorrow, and I'd have to see them. Dad's proud grin, Mom's sweet tea, Clara's charm. Could I sit through it, pretending I didn't know? Sunday evening, the Victorian district smelled of jasmine and roasted oysters, my mother's signature dish for family dinners. I stood outside my parents' historic home, its brick facade glowing under the gas lamps, my bag heavy with the ownership transfer folder. Jasper was back at the shelter. I'd spent all day with him, delaying this moment. My heart thudded as I gripped the doorknob, the weight of yesterday's discovery pressing against my ribs. I'd spent Saturday replaying every family moment, searching for signs I'd missed. Clara's laugh at dinner, Dad's quick subject changes, Mom's nervous smiles, they all felt like warnings now. I took a breath, Savannah's humid air thick in my lungs, and stepped inside. The dining room was warm, candlelight flickering on the mahogany table. Margaret bustled in from the kitchen, her apron dusted with flour, her smile faltering when she saw my face. "Emily, right on time," she said, too cheerful, pulling me into a hug I barely returned. Dad sat in his armchair, reading glasses low on his nose, flipping through project notes. Clara was setting the table, her colourful scarf a splash of Paris in our southern home. "Hey, Em," she called, her smile bright. "Missed you yesterday. Tried texting about the new client pitch." I nodded, my throat tight. Her casual tone felt like a slap after what I'd found. Dinner was torture. I pushed oysters around my plate, the clink of silverware deafening in my ears. Clara chatted about a marketing idea, something about rebranding our logo with Savannah's historic vibe. Dad nodded, his eyes gleaming with pride. "That's my girl," he said, squeezing her shoulder. My fork froze mid-air. His girl? I'd been his shadow for a decade, memorizing blueprints while Clara painted in Florence. Margaret kept the conversation light, prattling about her garden club and the neighbour's new spaniel. "Emily, you're quiet tonight," she said, refilling my sweet tea. I forced a smile, the folder burning a hole in my bag. I couldn't hold it in anymore. As Mom cleared the dessert plates, peach cobbler I hadn't touched, I pulled the folder out and set it on the table, the thud silencing the room. "When were you going to tell me about this?" I asked, my voice steady despite the storm inside. Dad's face hardened, his CEO mask slipping into place. Margaret's hand flew to her throat, her eyes wide. Clara stared at the folder, her napkin twisting in her hands. "Where did you get that?" Dad asked, his voice low, like he was negotiating with a difficult client. "Does it matter?" I shot back, leaning forward. "Were you ever going to tell me Clara owns 75% of the company I've poured my life into? Or was I supposed to keep working 80-hour weeks, clueless, while you all played me for a fool?" The silence was deafening, broken only by the faint hum of cicadas outside. Margaret reached for my hand. "Sweetheart, we were going to tell you," she said, her voice trembling. "We just couldn't find the right time." I yanked my hand away. 6 months ago was the right time, Mom. Before you signed my future away, Dad leaned back, his jaw tight. "This was a strategic decision, Emily. Clara's got a fresh vision. New markets, residential projects. The industry's changing, and we need to keep up." I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. "A fresh vision? I doubled our revenue, Dad. I digitized our systems, cut overruns by 40%. I know every client's kids' names. And you give the company to someone who works 25 hours a week?" Clara flinched, her eyes on her lap. "That's not fair," she whispered. But I wasn't done. "Fair?" I snapped, turning to her. "You waltzed in after 10 years abroad, and they handed you my dream. Did you even ask what it meant for me?" She opened her mouth, then closed it, her face pale. Dad stood, his voice booming. "Enough, Emily. This wasn't about you. It was about the company's future." "My future," I shouted, slamming my hand on the table, the silverware jumping. "You promised me this company since I was 8. I gave up everything. Friends, love, my own life. For what?" Margaret was crying now, her hands twisting her apron. "We're family, Emily. We can work this out." I shook my head, grabbing my bag. "Family doesn't do this, Mom." I looked at Clara, her eyes glistening. "You own it now, Clara. Run it." I walked out, the folder still in my hand, the night air cool against my burning cheeks. Spanish moss swayed above, Savannah's quiet beauty a stark contrast to the chaos in my heart. I drove to the shelter, needing Jasper's steady presence. The lot was dark, but Ms. Rosa let me in, no questions asked. Jasper bounded to me, his tail a blur. I sank onto the kennel floor, his warmth against my side. "They lied, Jasper," I whispered, tears finally falling. Everything I built, gone. My phone buzzed. Lauren, my college friend and shelter volunteer. "You okay?" she texted. "Heard you left dinner early." I typed back, my fingers shaking. "Meet me tomorrow? I need to talk." She replied instantly. "Coffee at the Sentient Bean, 10 a.m. Bring Jasper." I stayed with Jasper until midnight, his soft snores calming me. Tomorrow I'd face the wreckage, resign, maybe start over. But tonight it was just me and him. 2 souls betrayed by the world, finding solace in Savannah's shadows. The morning after I walked out on my family, Savannah woke to a golden haze, the kind that makes the city's squares glow like something out of a painting. I, Emily Harper, lay in my Ardsley Park apartment, staring at the ceiling, the silence deafening without my 5:30 a.m. alarm. For a decade, I'd been up before dawn, gulping coffee and racing to Harper Construction's office on River Street. Today I had nowhere to be. The ownership transfer folder sat on my nightstand, its weight heavier than the humid air pressing through my open window. Clara owned 75% of the company I'd built with my blood and sweat. The betrayal stung fresh, but a strange relief flickered beneath it. I didn't have to carry that burden anymore. I rolled out of bed, pulling on yoga pants and a faded University of Georgia sweatshirt. My apartment was sparse, a functional pit stop between work marathons. No photos, no knickknacks, just a coffee maker and a stack of project binders I'd brought home over the years. I brewed a pot out of habit, but left it untouched. the bitter scent mixing with the jasmine drifting in from the courtyard. My phone buzzed. 3 texts from Clara, 2 from Mom, none from Dad. I ignored them, my thumb hovering over Lauren's message from last night. Coffee at the Sentient Bean, 10 a.m. Bring Jasper. I needed her now, her no-nonsense advice, and Jasper's quiet loyalty. The Low Country Animal Shelter was a short drive away, its gravel lot already busy with volunteers. Ms. Rosa greeted me with a knowing nod, her apron streaked with kibble dust. Jasper's been waiting for you, she said, handing me his leash. The scruffy mutt bounded over, his amber eyes bright, tail thumping like a metronome. I knelt, letting him nuzzle my face, his warmth easing the knot in my chest. Let's make it official, boy, I said, my voice catching. I filled out the adoption papers, Ms. Rosa's smile soft as she processed them. He's yours now, Emily. You two need each other. Jasper licked my hand, and for the first time in days, I felt anchored. We headed to Chippewa Square, Jasper trotting beside me, sniffing every oak root and azalea bush. Savannah's squares were my refuge, their moss-draped trees and bubbling fountains a reminder that life went on, even when mine felt shattered. I sat on a bench, Jasper curling up at my feet, and let the memories flood back. 10 years at Harper Construction, first in, last out, sleeping on the office couch during deadlines. I'd modernized our systems, cut project overruns by 40%, doubled revenue. I knew every client's quirks, from Robert Calhoun's black coffee to the Westridge team's obsession with sustainable materials. I'd missed weddings, dates, entire seasons of my life, believing Dad's promise. This'll be yours, Em. Now Clara, with her 25-hour work weeks and Parisian charm, held my future. Jasper nudged my hand, his nose cool against my palm. I scratched his ears, his steady gaze pulling me back from the edge. I couldn't go back to the office, not yet, but I could protect myself. Lauren had texted earlier, echoing advice from my college. System, college mentor, William. Document everything, your contributions, your systems. Not to take them, but to show your value. I pulled out my laptop when I got home. Jasper sprawled across my feet and started typing. Every project I'd managed, every client relationship I'd built, every efficiency I'd created, laid out in a spreadsheet, cold and factual. It wasn't about revenge. It was about knowing my worth. I drafted a resignation email, formal and detached, claiming my 6 weeks of accrued vacation, effective immediately. I set up an autoresponder. I am out of the office and unavailable. Contact Clara Harper. Then I turned off my work phone, shoving it into a drawer. The act felt final, like locking a door I'd never reopen. My phone buzzed again. Robert Calhoun, CEO of Magnolia Properties, our biggest client. Emily, we need to talk about the hotel project, he said, his gruff voice crackling through. You're the only one who gets our specs right. I hesitated, the pull of duty strong, but Jasper's soft whine grounded me. I'm on leave, Mr. Calhoun, I said. Clara can assist you. He grunted, unconvinced, and hung up. I leaned down, stroking Jasper's fur, his warmth a reminder that I was more than my job. I wasn't ready to fix their mess. Not yet. Lauren was waiting at the Sentient Bean, a cozy cafe on Habersham Street, its patio shaded by live oaks. Jasper wagged his tail as we sat, the scent of espresso and pecan pie mingling in the air. Lauren's dark curls bounced as she leaned forward, her eyes sharp. Spill it, Em, she said, sipping her latte. I told her everything, the folder, Clara's 75%, the senior staff's silence. Her jaw tightened, her fist clenching around her mug. They screwed you over, she said flatly. After 10 years? Unbelievable. I nodded, my throat tight. I quit last night, walked out of dinner. I'm done. Lauren reached across the table, squeezing my hand. You're not done, Em. You're starting over. You're brilliant. Any firm would kill to have you. Jasper nudged my leg, his eyes soft, and I smiled despite myself. Lauren grinned. See? Even he knows you're a catch. We laughed, the sound lightening the weight on my chest. Lauren suggested I meet with her friend Anna, a librarian who ran a book club at the cafe. She's artsy, like Clara, but grounded. You'd like her. And you need people, Em, not just projects. I nodded, scratching Jasper's ears. Maybe she was right. Maybe it was time to build a life, not just a legacy. As we walked back through Monterey Square, Jasper tugging at his leash, I felt a flicker of freedom. I'd always been Harper Construction's workhorse, but now with Jasper by my side and a blank slate ahead, I could choose my path. Tomorrow I'd meet Anna, maybe join her book club, start painting again, hobbies I'd buried under deadlines. But the folder still loomed, a shadow I couldn't shake. Clara's role, Dad's silence, Mom's deflections, they'd face me again, soon. For now, I let Jasper lead me home, Savannah's golden light promising something new, even if I couldn't see it yet. A week into my self-imposed exile, Savannah's summer heat settled over the city like a heavy quilt, the air thick with cicadas and the scent of blooming gardenias. I'd spent my days walking Jasper through the city's squares, his joyful bounds through Forsyth Park's grass a stark contrast to the hollow ache in my chest. My apartment, once a crash pad between work marathons, was now a sanctuary. Jasper's toys scattered across the floor, my old sketchbook open on the coffee table. I'd started painting again, small watercolors of Savannah's oaks and rivers, inspired by Anna's book club. We'd met at the Sentient Bean, her warm laugh and stories of Jane Austen heroines pulling me out of my fog. "You're an artist, Emily," she'd said, flipping through my sketches. "Don't let that job bury this." Her words stuck, a reminder of a self I'd forgotten. But the past wouldn't stay buried. My phone buzzed relentlessly, Clara's texts piling up, each more desperate. "Where's the hotel contract revision? Westridge wants you, not me. Em, please, I'm drowning." I ignored them, my fingers brushing Jasper's fur for strength. Dad called next, his voice tight with panic. "Magnolia Properties is pulling their $10 million contract, Emily. You need to fix this." I leaned against my kitchen counter, Jasper's head resting on my foot. "Let Clara handle it," I said, my voice cold. "She's the owner." He sputtered, but I hung up, my heart pounding. Jasper whined, sensing my tension, and I knelt to hug him, his warmth steadying me. Later that afternoon, Robert Calhoun called my personal cell, his gruff voice cutting through the quiet. "Emily, what's going on? This hotel project is a mess without you. Clara doesn't know the specs like you do." I closed my eyes, the familiar pull of responsibility tugging at me. Magnolia was 30% of our revenue, a cornerstone client I'd nurtured for 5 years. "I'm on leave, Mr. Calhoun," I said, stroking Jasper's ears. "Clara's your point person now." He paused, his tone sharp. "You've been my go-to for years. If you're not running this, I'm not sure we can stay with Harper." The threat landed like a punch, but I held firm. "Talk to Clara," I said, ending the call. I took Jasper to Right Square, letting him chase squirrels as I processed Robert's words. Could Clara really tank the company? Part of me wanted to rush back, fix the specs, save the contract. It's what I'd always done. Swoop in, save the day. But Jasper's playful bark pulled me back. I wasn't their workhorse anymore. I'd given a decade to Harper Construction, sacrificing friends, love, even my own art. Clara owned it now. Let her figure it out. Still, doubt crept in. What if the company collapsed? Would I regret walking away? That evening, I met Anna at her book club in a cozy Savannah library, its shelves lined with worn novels. Jasper sprawled at my feet as we discussed Pride and Prejudice, Anna's eyes lighting up as she compared me to Elizabeth Bennet. "You're standing up for yourself, Emily," she said, her voice firm. "That's strength." I smiled, sketching a quick doodle of Jasper in the margin of my notes. Anna noticed, grinning. "You should paint him. He's your muse." The idea sparked something. Maybe I'd start a series, Dogs of Savannah, for the shelter's fundraiser. It felt good to create, to have something that was mine. Back home, I opened my laptop, Jasper snoring beside me. Lauren had emailed, forwarding a message from Michael Grayson, CEO of Low Country Builders, our rival in Hilton Head. "Heard you're on leave," it read. "Coffee tomorrow? We'd love to talk." My pulse quickened. Low Country was innovative, growing fast. Everything Harper wasn't lately. I replied, agreeing to meet at a riverfront oyster bar. Jasper stirred, his amber eyes meeting mine, as if sensing a shift. The company was crumbling without me, and now a rival was knocking. Whatever came next, Clara's pleas, Dad's panic, or a new path entirely, I'd face it with Jasper by my side, my worth clearer than Savannah's morning light. The Savannah sunset painted the sky in shades of peach and gold, casting long shadows across my Ardsley Park apartment. I stood on the porch, Jasper at my feet, his amber eyes tracking a squirrel darting up an oak. It had been 10 days since I walked out of Harper Construction, and the quiet was both a balm and a bruise. My phone lay silent. No more frantic texts from Clara, no calls from Dad. The absence felt like a dare, as if they thought I'd cave and return to save their sinking ship. But I wasn't that Emily anymore. Jasper nudged my leg, his tail wagging, grounding me in this new life I was carving out, one with morning walks, watercolor sketches, and book club nights with Anna. Yet the ownership transfer folder still haunted my nightstand, a reminder that my family's betrayal wasn't resolved. The doorbell rang, sharp and sudden, making Jasper's ears perk. I peered through the peephole, my stomach twisting. Dad stood there, his silver hair disheveled, his usual crisp blazer rumpled. I hadn't seen him since Sunday dinner, when I'd slammed the folder on the table and quit. Jasper growled softly, sensing my tension, but I shushed him, taking a deep breath before opening the door. "Emily," Dad said, his voice clipped, pushing past me into the living room without an invitation. Jasper followed, his eyes wary, as Dad paced across my hardwood floor, his agitation filling the small space like humidity. "What do you want, Dad?" I asked, leaning against the wall, arms crossed. Jasper sat beside me, his warmth steadying my nerves. Dad stopped pacing, his eyes meeting mine, the same steel blue I'd inherited. "We're in crisis, Emily," he said, his tone a mix of anger and desperation. "Magnolia Properties is one meeting away from pulling their contract. Clara can't handle it. You need to come back." I laughed, a sharp sound that made Jasper's ears twitch. "Clara's the owner," I said, echoing my words from dinner. "Let her fix it." Dad's face reddened, his hands clenching. "This isn't a game," he snapped. "This is your grandfather's legacy, your heritage." I stepped forward, my voice low. "My heritage? You gave that to Clara, remember? 75% behind my back." He flinched, but his CEO mask stayed firm. "I'm offering a solution," he said, his tone shifting to the one he used with difficult clients. "Chief Operations Officer, full control over projects, double your salary. Corner office." I stared, incredulous. "You're offering me a title and more money to do the same job I was already doing? For Clara's company?" He sighed, rubbing his temples. "You'd report to me, not Clara." I shook my head, Jasper's soft whine mirroring my disbelief. "No, Dad. I'd still be working for her. She owns 75%. His silence confirmed it, and I felt a surge of clarity. I wasn't just their workhorse. I was their fallback plan. "I have terms," I said, my voice steady. 40% ownership, a board seat, and a 45-hour work week. No more 80-hour marathons. His eyes widened, shock replacing his composure. "That's impossible," he said. "Clara's stake." "Then sell some of it back," I cut in. "Or you and Mom give me part of your 25%. I don't care how it works. Those are my terms." Jasper nudged my hand, his loyalty fueling my resolve. Dad stared, his calculations visible behind his eyes. Magnolia's $10 million contract, my client relationships, my systems keeping the company afloat. "You're serious," he said finally. I nodded, pointing to my phone. Low Country Builders offered me operations director yesterday. Profit sharing, normal hours, 4 weeks vacation. I haven't said yes, yet. His face paled, the mention of our rival hitting like a storm surge. "You wouldn't," he whispered. "They'd poach our clients." I shrugged, my heart pounding but my voice calm. Maxwell Calhoun already said he'd follow me. I wonder who else would. It wasn't entirely true. Robert had only hinted at it. But the fear in Dad's eyes was worth the bluff. Jasper growled softly, as if backing me up. "I know my worth now, Dad," I said. "Do you?" He resumed pacing, his shoes scuffing my floor. "I need to talk to your mother and Clara," he said, his voice strained. "How long do I have before you accept Low Country's offer?" I picked a deadline, firm but fair. Wednesday evening, I said. 2 days? He nodded, moving toward the door, then paused. This isn't how I wanted things, Emily. I didn't respond, just held the door open, Jasper at my side. As he left, the porch swing creaked in the evening breeze, Savannah's quiet beauty a stark contrast to the war inside me. My phone rang minutes later. Mom, her voice soft and pleading. Emily, your father's a mess, she said. He didn't mean to hurt you. I sat on the couch, Jasper curling up beside me, his head heavy on my lap. Then why didn't he tell me, Mom? I asked, my voice cracking. Why did you let him give Clara my future? She hesitated, her breath catching. I told him it was wrong, she admitted, surprising me. But he thought Clara's ideas would take the company somewhere new, and you were too valuable where you were. I closed my eyes, the betrayal cutting deeper. Valuable as a worker, not an owner, I said bitterly. I'm not coming back without my terms. She sighed, her voice trembling. He's considering it, sweetheart. Just don't make any rash decisions. I hung up, stroking Jasper's fur, his steady breathing calming my racing heart. Low Country's offer was real. I was meeting their CEO, Michael Grayson, tomorrow. But Mom's words lingered. She'd opposed Dad? That was new, a crack in the family facade I hadn't seen. Jasper whined, sensing my turmoil, and I hugged him tight. We'll figure this out, boy, I whispered. Savannah's night hummed outside, promising answers, or more storms. The next morning, I walked Jasper along Savannah's riverfront, the Savannah River sparkling under a cloudless sky. His tail wagged as he sniffed the salty air, dodging tourists, snapping photos of the paddle wheel boats. I'd slept fitfully, Mom's voice echoing in my dreams. I told him it was wrong. Her admission had shifted something, a puzzle piece I didn't know was missing. Jasper tugged at his leash, pulling me toward a vendor selling pralines, and I smiled despite myself. Not for you, buddy, I said, scratching his ears. He was my anchor, his loyalty a contrast to the family I'd trusted so blindly. My phone buzzed, a text from Clara. Em, I'm drowning. I never wanted this. Can we talk? I stared at the screen, my thumb frozen. Her pleas had been about work, contracts, clients, but this felt different, raw. I didn't reply, not yet. I had a meeting with Michael Grayson at the Grey, a sleek oyster bar on Martin Luther King Boulevard, and I needed a clear head. Jasper and I headed home, his bounds up the apartment stairs lightening my mood. I changed into a navy blazer and slacks, my old work armor, and left Jasper with a chew toy, promising a long walk later. The Grey buzzed with lunchtime chatter, its exposed brick walls and low country menu a slice of Savannah's soul. Michael Grayson stood as I approached, his handshake firm, his smile warm but calculated. He was younger than Dad, mid-40s, with a reputation for turning low country builders into a regional powerhouse. Emily, I've been trying to poach you for years, he said, sliding a menu my way. Your systems at Harper are legendary. I laughed, the flattery easing my nerves. You've done your homework, I said, ordering a sweet tea. Over oysters and shrimp ceviche, Michael laid out his offer. Operations director, profit sharing, a 40-hour work week, a mandatory 4-week vacation. We're expanding into Savannah, he said, his eyes sharp. Your client relationships, Magnolia, Westridge, would give us an edge. I sipped my tea, the sweetness grounding me. It was tempting, a clean break, a chance to build something new without my family's baggage. Why now? I asked, leaning back. He shrugged, his smile sly. Words out, you're on leave. I don't waste opportunities. My phone vibrated, another text from Clara. I was lied to, Em. Dad didn't tell me everything. Please? I silenced it, but her words lingered, a hook I couldn't shake. Michael noticed my distraction. Family business is messy, he said, his tone sympathetic. I walked away from mine years ago. Best decision I made. I nodded, but my heart wasn't so sure. Harper construction was in my blood, despite everything. I need a few days, I said, standing. He handed me a folder, his offer in black and white. Take your time, he said, but don't wait too long. I drove to the low country animal shelter, needing Jasper's clarity. Lauren was there, tossing tennis balls to a pack of dogs, her curls tied back. How'd it go? She asked, wiping sweat from her brow. I leaned against the fence, Jasper bounding over to nuzzle my hand. Low Country's offer is incredible, I said, tossing him a ball. But Clara's texting me, saying Dad lied to her. Lauren's eyes widened. Lied how? I showed her the texts, her frown deepening. Sounds like she's scared, Em. Maybe she's not the villain here. We sat on a bench. Jasper sprawled across my lap as Lauren shared her own story. My dad pitted me against my brother for years, she said, her voice low. Said it made us stronger. It just broke us apart. I nodded, Clara's text replaying in my mind. Had Dad played us against each other? Jasper licked my hand, his eyes soft, and I felt a shift. I'd seen Clara as a rival, but maybe she was a pawn, like me. I need to hear her out, I said, standing. Lauren squeezed my arm. You're doing this for you, not them. Remember that. Back home, I sat on the porch, Jasper chewing a bone at my feet. I opened Clara's texts, my fingers hesitating before typing. Tomorrow, 9 a.m., Forsyth Park. Just us. Her reply was instant. Thank you, Em. I leaned back, the swing creaking, Savannah's evening hush wrapping around me. Low Country's offer was a lifeline, but Clara's words were a tether to the past. Tomorrow I'd face her, and whatever truth she carried. Jasper's steady breathing calmed my racing heart, a promise that I wasn't alone, no matter what came next. The Savannah River flowed steady and silver under the noonday sun, its gentle ripples a stark contrast to the storm brewing inside me. I stood outside the Collins Quarter, a riverfront restaurant on Savannah's bustling river street, my hands smoothing the navy blazer I'd worn to countless client meetings. Jasper was at home, his amber eyes lingering in my mind as I'd left him with a chew toy, promising a long walk later. Today wasn't about client pitches or project deadlines. It was about facing my family, the folder of betrayal, and the future I demanded. Clara's text from yesterday, I was lied to, Em, had kept me up all night, her words a crack in the wall of anger I'd built. Now, with Dad's deadline looming and Low Country Builders' offer in my bag, I was ready to negotiate, not as their workhorse, but as their equal. I stepped inside, the restaurant's low hum of chatter and clinking glasses wrapping around me. The scent of Low Country shrimp and grits mingled with the salty breeze drifting through open windows. My family was already seated at a corner table, their faces a mix of tension and hope. Dad, James, sat rigid, his silver hair neat but his eyes tired. Mom, Margaret, clutched a napkin, her hands trembling slightly. Clara, her colourful scarf a splash of defiance, met my gaze with a flicker of guilt. Beside them sat Henry Sullivan, our family lawyer, his leather portfolio open, a pen poised over legal pads. I approached, my heels clicking on the hardwood floor, and slid into the chair across from them, my expression neutral despite the pounding in my chest. Thank you for coming, Emily, Dad began, his voice formal, the CEO tone he used to close deals. We've reviewed your proposal. I nodded, folding my hands, waiting. Clara shifted, her fingers twisting her napkin, and spoke first. I want to say something, she said, her voice low but steady. She looked at me, her eyes glistening. I'm sorry, Emily. I never meant to hurt you or take what you worked for. I was overwhelmed when Dad offered me the company, and I didn't ask enough questions. Her words landed like a stone in still water, rippling through my anger. I leaned back, studying her. You took 75% of my future, Clara, I said, my voice calm but sharp. How do you not ask questions? She swallowed, her scarf slipping slightly. Dad said you were too valuable in operations to move up, that the company needed you where you were. He didn't tell me you'd been promised it your whole life, not until after the papers were signed. I turned to Dad, his face tight, avoiding my gaze. Is that true? I asked, my voice cutting through the restaurant's hum. He cleared his throat, adjusting his tie. I may have downplayed certain expectations, he admitted, his voice strained. I thought it would be easier for everyone. Easier. The word burned, a match to the dry kindling of my hurt. Mum reached across the table, her hand stopping short of mine. We've hardly slept since you left, Emily, she said, her voice trembling. Not just because of the business, but because we hurt you. That was never our intention. Her eyes were red, her usual southern poise cracked, and I saw the truth in her regret. She'd admitted on the phone she'd opposed Dad's decision, but her trembling hands now made it real. I softened, just a fraction, but kept my focus. Intentions don't change facts, I said. I gave a decade to Harper Construction, and you gave it to someone who didn't earn it. Henry cleared his throat, his voice calm but firm. Perhaps we should discuss the terms, he said, sliding a document toward me. We've drafted options based on yesterday's discussions. For the next hour, we negotiated, the restaurant's clatter fading into the background. Dad started with 20% ownership, a board seat, and a salary bump. I rejected it outright, my voice steady. 40%, equal decision-making, 45-hour work week, I repeated, my eyes locked on his. Clara surprised us all, leaning forward. I'll transfer 35% to Emily, she said, her voice firm. I never wanted to be majority owner. I just wanted to be part of the family business, not stuck in accounting. I stared at her, the sincerity in her eyes disarming. You'd give up that much? I asked, skeptical. She nodded, her scarf slipping further. I'm not cut out for operations, Em. You are. I'm better with clients, marketing, creative stuff. Dad's face tightened, but he stayed silent, his calculations visible. Henry outlined the deal. 35% ownership from Clara, reducing her stake to 40%. Mom and Dad's 25% unchanged. Me as Chief Operations Officer, with equal decision-making to Clara, who'd focus on creative direction. Board decisions would need majority approval, ensuring no major moves without two of us agreeing. Most crucially, a 45-hour workweek cap for all executives, with 3 weeks mandatory vacation. I scanned the document, my heart racing. It was close, damn close, to what I demanded. But trust was fragile, and I needed clarity. Why now, Clara? I asked, my voice softer. Why give this up? She met my gaze, her eyes steady. Because I'm drowning, Em. The hotel project, Magnolia's specs, it's hieroglyphics to me. And because you're my sister, not my rival, I want us to build this together. Her words hit hard, echoing the sister I'd loved before Paris, before this mess. I glanced at Mom, her hopeful nod, and Dad, his reluctant acceptance. Jasper's image flashed in my mind, his loyalty a reminder to trust carefully, but not close the door. 5 minutes, I said to Clara, standing. Just us. She followed me to the riverside patio, the Savannah River's breeze cooling my flushed cheeks. Tourists strolled past, their laughter distant. I never wanted your dream, Em, Clara said, her voice breaking. Dad made it sound like I was saving the company, bringing fresh ideas. I believed him because I wanted to belong, to not be the artsy failure next to you, the golden child. I blinked, stunned. Golden child, I said, my voice sharp. Dad bragged about your fresh perspective constantly. I was just the grunt. She laughed, a sad sound. Before I came back, it was always, why can't you be like Emily? She's building something. We were both played. The truth settled between us, heavy but clarifying. Dad had pitted us against each other, his control a wedge in our bond. We never talked, did we? I said, leaning on the railing. Not really. Clara nodded, her scarf fluttering. I don't want to be CEO, Em. I'm terrible at it. But I have ideas, marketing, client pitches, that could work, if you're there to make them real. For the first time, I saw a partnership, her creativity meshing with my systems. Not forgiveness, not yet, but a start. We returned to the table, Henry's document ready. We refined details, reporting structures, vacation policies, but the framework held. By mid-afternoon, we signed a letter of intent, Henry promising final papers in days. Dad's shoulders sagged, relief mixed with defeat. Will you come back tomorrow? He asked as we stood to leave. Magnolia's still threatening to pull out. I shook my head, Jasper's image steadying me. Not tomorrow. I'm still on vacation. I'll be available by phone for real emergencies, starting Monday. His eyes widened, but I held firm. And I need to decline another offer, I added, Low Country's folder heavy in my bag. As we parted outside, Mom hugged me, her embrace tentative. We have a lot to rebuild, she whispered. Yes, I agreed, not pulling away this time. Clara lingered, her eyes searching mine. See you soon? She asked. I nodded, a small smile breaking through. I walked to my car, the river's shimmer mirroring the hope flickering in my chest. Jasper was waiting, and tonight we'd walk Forsyth Park, dreaming of a future where I owned my worth, and maybe, just maybe, my family again. Monday morning, I stepped into Harper Construction's Forsyth Park office as co-owner and chief operations officer, the title settling over me like a new skin. Jasper trotted beside me, his leash loose in my hand, his tail wagging as we passed Eleanor's desk. She beamed, her grey hair catching the sunlight. Welcome back, Emily. And hello, Jasper, she said, tossing him a treat from her stash. The office buzzed with a new energy, its oak floors polished, the air free of the tension that had choked it weeks ago. My new office, not Dad's corner suite, but a redesigned space with wide windows and a cozy meeting nook, symbolized the shift. I was no longer the workhorse. I was a partner. I settled at my desk, Jasper curling up on a dog bed I'd bought, his snores a soft rhythm as I opened my laptop. Clara had emailed a proposal for a company charity event, a fundraiser for the Low Country Animal Shelter. Let's do this together, she'd written, and I smiled, seeing her creative spark align with my operational know-how. We'd agreed on a new structure, Clara leading marketing and client acquisition, me handling operations, finances, and project execution. Dad, reluctantly, had stepped into an advisory role, mentoring staff as he eased toward retirement. The 45-hour workweek cap was official, a cultural shift that made the staff exhale with relief. My first task was Magnolia Properties. I called Robert Calhoun, his gruff voice softening when he heard mine. Emily, thank God, he said. Clara tried, but she's no you. I walked him through our new structure, detailing how my systems would ensure his hotel projects stayed on track. You're back in charge? He asked, skeptical. Co-owner, I corrected, my voice firm. Clara's handling clients and marketing. I'm running operations. You'll get the best of both. He grunted, satisfied, and confirmed the $10 million contract was secure. I hung up, Jasper stirring at my feet, his tail thumping as if he sensed the win. Clara knocked, her scarf a vibrant teal today. Magnolia's good? She asked, leaning against the doorframe. I nodded, gesturing to my laptop. Just sealed it. Your design concepts for their lobby helped. She grinned, stepping inside. And your specs made them trust us again. We're a team, Em. I smiled, the word team feeling real for the first time. We reviewed her charity event plan, a gala at Forsyth Park, with dog adoptions, live music, and a silent auction. Jasper can be the mascot, she teased, and I laughed, picturing him in a tiny bow tie. Let's make it big, I said, already mapping logistics. For the shelter. That afternoon, I met Anna at her book club. Jasper sprawled under the library table as we debated The Great Gatsby. Anna noticed my sketchbook, now filled with watercolors of Savannah's dogs, including Jasper's soulful eyes. These are stunning, she said, her librarian glasses slipping. Show them at the gala. I hesitated, then nodded, the idea sparking. I'd always buried my art under work, but now with Clara's creative push and Anna's encouragement, I was reclaiming it. Maybe I'll auction one, I said, stroking Jasper's fur. For the shelter. Back at the office, I streamlined our project management software, cutting timelines without overtime. The staff adjusted fast, their relief palpable. Ethan, our site manager, stopped by, his boots dusty from the hotel site. Place feels different, he said, tossing Jasper a ball. Less frantic. I nodded, smiling. More balanced. He grinned, heading out, and I caught Eleanor watching us, her eyes warm. You and Clara together. It's what this place needed, she said, her voice soft. Her words lingered, a validation I hadn't known I craved. That evening, I walked Jasper through Forsyth Park, the fountain's mist cooling my skin. Tourists snapped photos, their laughter mingling with the cicadas' hum. I'd started going to the gym, joined Anna's book club, and planned to volunteer more at the shelter. My life was fuller, not just a backdrop to work. Clara and I were finding a rhythm, her client pitches landing 3 new accounts, my efficiencies saving costs. Even Dad seemed lighter, his unsolicited advice less frequent as he mentored younger staff. At home, I painted Jasper by lamplight, his amber eyes taking shape on the canvas. My phone buzzed. A text from Nathan, an engineer I'd reconnected with during the Magnolia talks. "Dinner tomorrow?" he asked. I smiled, typing back, "Sure." A date, a real one, was new territory, but I was ready. The gala was in 2 weeks, and Clara and I were meeting tomorrow to finalize plans. We'd present our 5-year vision to the board soon, a true partnership. Savannah's night wrapped around me, its promise of renewal as steady as Jasper's snores. I wasn't just rebuilding the company, I was rebuilding me. Savannah's Forsyth Park shimmered under the October twilight, the fountain's mist catching the last rays of sun as live oaks swayed in the breeze. I stood near the gala's main tent, Jasper at my side, his bow tie slightly crooked, but his amber eyes bright with excitement. The Low Country Animal Shelter fundraiser, Harper Construction's first charity event, was in full swing, string lights crisscrossing above, tables laden with shrimp and grits, and a jazz band filling the air with soulful notes. Guests milled about, petting adoptable dogs and bidding on silent auction items, including my watercolor of Jasper, its vibrant strokes glowing under a spotlight. Clara caught my eye from across the tent, her teal scarf fluttering as she charmed a donor, and we shared a nod, a silent acknowledgement of the partnership we'd built. 6 months had passed since I'd returned to Harper Construction as co-owner and chief operations officer, and the company was thriving. Our new structure, Clara leading marketing, me running operations, Dad advising, had transformed us. We'd secured Magnolia Properties' $10 million contract, landed 3 new clients, and cut project costs by 15% with my streamlined systems. The 45-hour workweek cap was a game changer, letting staff breathe and boosting morale. Even Dad, James, seemed lighter, his retirement plans taking shape as he mentored our younger engineers. Tonight's gala, Clara's brainchild, had already raised $50,000 for the shelter, with 10 dogs finding homes. Jasper, the unofficial mascot, wagged his tail as a family cooed over him, though he stayed loyally by me. I adjusted my dress, a simple navy sheath that felt more like me than the blazers of my workhorse days. My life was fuller now, a tapestry of work and joy. I painted regularly, my Savannah dog series a hit at the gala, with Anna's book club planning an art show for me next spring. I volunteered at the shelter weekly, helping Ms. Rosa match dogs with families, and I joined a gym, trading late-night spreadsheets for morning runs with Jasper. Nathan, the engineer I'd started dating, was here tonight, his warm laugh drifting over as he chatted with Lauren near the auction table. Our third date was tomorrow, a riverfront picnic, and the thought made my heart lift. Mom, Margaret, approached, her garden club friends trailing behind, all clutching sweet teas. "Emily, this is beautiful," she said, her eyes soft. "You and Clara, you've made us so proud." I hugged her, her jasmine perfume familiar and grounding. Our relationship was healing, her regret over the ownership transfer fading as we rebuilt trust over Sunday dinners. Those dinners, once tense, were now warm, filled with Clara's stories and Dad's rare but genuine compliments. Last week at their Victorian district home, Dad had pulled me aside, his voice gruff but sincere. "You and Clara are better than I ever was," he'd said, his hand on my shoulder. "I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner." His apology, hard-won, closed a wound I hadn't realized was still open. Clara joined us, her scarf slipping as she hugged Mom. "We did it, Em," she said, her grin wide. "The shelter's set for a year." I nodded, glancing at Jasper, who'd flopped onto the grass, content. "Your vision, my logistics," I said, echoing our new mantra. Clara laughed, nudging me. "And Jasper's charm." We'd presented our 5-year plan to the board last month, expanding into residential projects, launching a sustainability initiative, and growing our charity events. The board, including Henry Sullivan, had approved it unanimously, cementing our partnership. Clara's creativity and my systems were a force, and even Dad admitted our plan outshone his own. I stepped away to check the auction, Jasper trotting beside me. My watercolor had bids up to $1,200, and I smiled, imagining the shelter's new kennels. Lauren caught up, her curls bouncing. "You're glowing, Em," she said, tossing Jasper a treat. "This is your legacy now." I nodded, her words resonating. Harper Construction wasn't just Dad's company anymore. It was mine and Clara's, built on trust and balance. I'd recorded a YouTube video last week, sharing my story for the gala's promotion, urging viewers to know their worth. Family can hurt you, I'd said, Jasper in my lap. But love, for yourself, for others, even for a dog, can rebuild what's broken. The video had thousands of views, comments flooding in from women who'd faced similar betrayals, their words a reminder I wasn't alone. As the band struck up a slow song, Nathan found me, his hand outstretched. "Dance?" he asked, his eyes warm. I hesitated, then took his hand, Jasper watching us with a tilted head. We swayed under the lights, Savannah's magic wrapping around us, and I felt whole. Not just Emily Harper, co-owner, but Emily, the artist, the friend, the woman who'd fought for her place. Clara danced nearby with a client, her laugh bright, and Mom and Dad joined in, their steps slow but steady. The family I'd nearly lost was here, imperfect but mending, like Savannah itself, a city of scars and beauty. The gala wound down, guests drifting off with adopted dogs and auction wins. I walked Jasper through the park, the fountains hum a soft lullaby. The city's squares glowed under gas lamps, their Spanish moss swaying like a promise. I'd reclaimed my life, work I loved, a sister I trusted, a family I was learning to forgive, and a dog who'd saved me as much as I'd saved him. Harper Construction's legacy was redefined, not by ownership papers, but by what we built together. I knelt, hugging Jasper, his warmth my anchor. "We did it, boy," I whispered. Savannah's night holding us close, its future as bright as his eyes. I hope you enjoyed this story. Subscribe to my channel so you don't miss touching stories. Leave a like and then comment below what you thought of the emotional stories. See you in the next video.